Call the meeting for Clay Township for January 24th, 2024 to order. If you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Deborah Addy.
Absent excused.
Mark Bouchard.
Here.
Christopher Daggy.
Here.
Chris Hiltunen.
Here.
Tom Kozel.
Here.
Robert Muesling here. Wayne Torno.
Here.
And Kathy Schweikart.
Here. Thank you. Item number 4 is approval/amendments to the agenda.
A motion to approve the agenda. I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deborah Addy is absent. Mark Bouchard.
Yes.
Christopher Daggy.
Yes.
Chris Hiltunen.
Yes.
Tom Kozel.
Yes.
Robert Muesling, yes. Wayne Torno.
Yes.
And Kathy Schweikart.
Is Christopher? You said it, yeah, that's all. His last name didn't hear it, that's all.
Nope.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Item number 5 is approval of minutes, which would be the minutes of October 25th, 2023.
A motion to approve.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Deborah Addy is absent. Mark Bouchard.
Yes.
Christopher Daggy.
Yes.
Chris Hiltunen.
I'll abstain, I was absent.
Christine Holcomb is absent. Tom Kozel.
Yes.
Robert Muesling, yes. Wayne Torno.
Yes.
And Kathy Schweikart.
Yes, thank you. The next on our agenda is, we have 2 public hearings, but before we start the public hearings, I was going to ask Chris Hiltunen to please read the public comment and public hearing comments rules,
Yep.
please.
Public comment rules. Number 1, all comments must be made through the chairperson. Comments directed to the applicant from the audience are prohibited. Number 2, individuals wishing to speak have time limits, 3 minutes for each member of the general public and 6 minutes for a spokesperson of a larger group, subdivision association, condo association, business group, or similar group. Number 3, anyone wishing to speak is asked to sign the sign-in sheet provided. However, anyone wishing to speak will be given the opportunity. Number 4, each individual will be allowed to speak once. It will be the chairperson's decision as to whether rebuttal comments will be allowed. Number 5, citizens may appoint a spokesperson to represent those who agree on a point of view. Lastly, number 6, public comments on a specific public hearing request should be made during the public hearing for that item.
Thank you, Chris. It is now 7:04. I'm going to open the public hearing in regards to, I'm going to call it the cell tower and associated site improvements. And I believe, Karen, you had done that.
So tonight, before us, we have a conditional rezoning. The applicant is S&J International on behalf of American Towers. They're requesting a conditional rezoning of a 5.2-acre property that is located in the RS1 Rural Suburban District. They are requesting it to be rezoned to light industrial. The purpose of the rezoning would be to construct a new cellular tower to provide service in place of a decommissioned tower on Starville Road. The applicant is requesting light industrial, I-1 light industrial. This district's purpose is for light industrial and other limited industrial uses. The applicant is seeking to restrict uses on this parcel to only wireless communication facilities through this conditional rezoning, thus removing the ability for different industrial development on this property in the future. The applicant has stated that the construction of the tower would provide needed service to this community. While the construction of the tower is proposed to replace the decommissioned one on Starville Road, surrounding tower locations remained unknown. Further information to demonstrate support of the rezoning of this property should be provided. A separate site plan review will be conducted if this is approved. However, it should be noted that aside from more information, the proposed plan will not meet the setback requirements for the northwest and south property lines, and the proposed height of the tower of 250 feet exceeds the maximum tower height of 150 feet for wireless communication facilities in Clay Township. Variances or modified plans will be needed. While the rezoning of this parcel from R1 from RS1 to I1 deviates from the future land use plan for this area, it could be appropriate if further information is provided to support how the rezoning would benefit the surrounding area. Based on this review, we recommend that action on the conditional rezoning be postponed until the applicant can provide further information supporting the rezoning of this property from RS1 to I1 for community enhancement of cellular service. Information such as towers in the vicinity or lack of service is essential in this decision-making process.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate it. Is the applicant present for this project? Would you like to come forward and state your name and give us any further information?
Good evening. My name is Larry Opaleski. I do represent the applicant American Tower in this case. So as you might know from the materials we submitted, American Tower is one of the world's largest cell tower operators. We have towers in 25 countries, including one here in Clay Township. If you've visited the site, as I'm sure you have, in preparation for tonight's meeting, you can actually see the existing tower, the one that's going to be decommissioned, about 1,500 or so feet away from the site that we're proposing. The American Tower did reach out to Clay Township, is my understanding, over the summer, and there was some communication back and forth regarding the site that we're proposing now and what the zoning would be, and it was decided between the planner and American Tower that this would need to be rezoned in order to put up the proposed tower here. So typically, I spent a couple terms on my own planning commission, and I've done land use my whole career. Typically, when you say, you know, I'd like to rezone something to industrial, whether it's light or heavy, all the alarm bells are going off in everyone's head, and it's like, you know, we don't want industrial except for certain places. But with this one, as you just heard, we're proposing a conditional rezoning. And as you all know, what that is we're going to submit a legally binding document which says this property cannot be used for all the other light industrial uses under your ordinance. It's only going to be a cell tower. And if it's ever not a cell tower, it goes back to its original zoning. So it takes away a lot of the risk and downside that comes with just a straight rezoning to I-1. You did hear mentioned a couple issues that we did see on the planner's report. First of all, it's the setbacks and the max height. My understanding is once the zoning is squared away, we're more than willing to have discussions with the Township Planning Department to come to some sort of agreement on what those need to look like. And if we do need to submit for a variance, we're certainly willing to do that and make sure everything is to the understanding and acceptance of the community here. In terms of additional information sought regarding existing coverage, we did submit that to the planner late last week. I'm hoping you all received the coverage maps that we submitted.
Yes.
You did? Oh, terrific. That's wonderful. So what you'll see with those is the existing coverage with our current site, coverage that what it would look like if there's no replacement tower once the current site is decommissioned, and then coverage with the proposed site. So as you'll note, we have all three major carriers on the current tower, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. Currently, there is coverage, again, from the existing site that will be decommissioned, I believe, late spring, early summer. So if this current tower is not put up and operational before that, you'll see that that surrounding area will lose most, if not all, coverage for all those carriers, which would be certainly not great for everyone that lives around there. But if the new tower is approved, you'll see not only will the existing coverage be maintained, but if you're like me and you have T-Mobile, that's actually going to significantly increase the quality of the coverage that's there as well. And of course, I know everyone understands why it's important to have cell coverage. Probably most important is for access to emergency services and public safety. Also in terms of conducting business and just internet access and being able to talk to your loved ones, of course, is all benefit to the community. So again, there's no, it's not as if this is on a city block where it's going to be in the middle of a bunch of buildings. It's pretty forested out in that area. There will be no negative effects on the surrounding properties. There's not going to be any noise, dust, fumes, vibrations, all the things that you would normally look for in opposing something like this. None of those factors are present here. So I will stop talking now, and if anybody has questions, be happy to answer to the best of our ability, and if not, then we request approval.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What studies have you done concerning the wildlife in that area, and any noticeable waves or microwave waves or whatever it may be that would it actually affect the wildlife?
So we have not done those as to this specific site. I do know that studies of that nature have been done, and to my knowledge, there's no proof or correlation even to any sort of effect that it would have on that. And again, this is about 1,500 feet away from the existing tower, and we've not had any reports of any negative effects on wildlife in the area.
Well, I'm highly concerned about the disruption of wildlife in that area because it is a prime hunting area. DNR is in that area as well, and it's a duck flyway. So that's are my concerns.
Okay.
The tower that's going to be decommissioned, what's the current height of that tower?
I do have a colleague here with me who may have the information. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just the attorney. I'm not the the specs guy.
On the existing one right now?
Yeah, you're asking for the existing height, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I believe it's also 250 feet, but I would need to confirm that.
Was a variance given for that height versus what the township allows in the zoning requirements?
It's my understanding that was built prior to the enactment of any ordinance, and that's why it's built in the RS1 district.
Could I request you to come forward to the podium too and state your name also, so we have you for the record? No, you're fine. Thank you.
Aaron Edelman with SMJ International.
Did you get that, Sue? Could you say that again?
Aaron Edelman, Adelman, with SMJ International.
I had a couple questions then for you guys. Why decommission the other tower? Why are we not using the same site to?
Sure. So the
Build a new
property
tower.
that's on right now is owned by two different people.
Okay.
One of the people they don't want it on there. They refuse to go forward. The same gentleman that owns the property that we're going on now, he's one of the owners on the previous parcel. So that's why we're making the move to this parcel.
So you did mention that 250 feet is 100 feet higher, 100 foot higher than our ordinance allows. What type of changes could you make to meet that? Because, we're not talking 5 feet, we're talking 100 feet, so.
But what do you mean for like?
You're talking about putting a new tower in, it's going to be 250 feet tall.
Sure.
150 feet is what our ordinance allows. And you mentioned about maybe making some adjustments. Setbacks are an issue too, 250-foot setback, you don't meet that anywhere. So that's kind of an issue too. What type of things are you proposing to meet those requirements of our ordinance?
Sure.
Obviously variances.
Regarding the setback, we can certainly seek a variance, and we can provide a fall zone letter certified by an engineer that it would fall within a certain amount of feet, like say 50% of what the tower height is. So if it's 250, they'll certify a letter that says that it'll fall with a 125-foot radius around that tower to meet the setbacks. That's
About
typically-
height is probably non-negotiable, right? You need to be 250 feet tall.
Yeah, this is like I said. I think the existing one it's 250 or not close. All the carriers that are currently on there need to be at the same height. It's a line of sight, proposition, so they need to be as high as possible to maintain their coverage.
And if we need to seek a variance once we have the zoning all squared away, I don't think we're opposed to doing that. Certainly, we can't build anything without your approval. So, I think we're hoping to get the zoning squared away, and then, if there's anything else that needs to be addressed, we're certainly ready and willing to address that with you folks.
I guess this would be more for the planning commission. If we were to approve it, and then they couldn't meet the variances, does it go back to what it was today?
Karen, can you answer that for
No,
us?
I don't want it.
So if rezoning is granted, and then they go before ZBA to get variances, and let's say ZBA says no, then, the planning commission, your role is to follow the code. So unless they're able to modify their plans, or basically their options are to either modify their plans to meet the ordinance or be granted the variances. And if they aren't granted variances, then they're not going to meet the code, the current code.
And since I was talking right now with you, do you know where the 150-foot height requirement came in our ordinance from?
I don't, I can check and see when that was adopted.
If I may, a lot of older cell tower ordinances have those height requirements in them, so it's not terribly surprising to see that. And
The 150, you mean?
if it 150 or something in that range,
Okay.
before cell towers became safer and more prevalent. And again, what we're proposing is a conditional rezoning. So if we can't build a cell tower there, if for whatever reason, we just can't figure something out, then it does go back to its original zoning per the agreement that we're
Right.
going to submit to that we have submitted to the township.
Do we know what Ira and Cotterville, and what do they allow for height?
I do not. Gary, would you by chance know or no? And Steve's shaking his head no also. So, we gotta know.
Yeah, there's a tower in that vicinity already. And who owns that, do you know?
If you're referring to the one that's around 1,500 or so feet away, that is our current
That's what
tower
I'm
that we
thinking
have up and operating right now.
One going down?
Yeah.
This one's going down, then you put another one up, same place?
That's about the size of it.
Any more questions from the board at the moment?
Yes. Is that existing tower, is that going to be removed, or is that just that your usage needs to be switched to another tower?
Well, my understanding is both.
Sorry, I missed the second part.
Is the existing tower going, if you put this other tower up, is this other tower going to be removed, or is there going to continue to be, would there then be two towers?
No, that won't be totally decommissioned, totally removed. The site would be restored to what it was prior to the construction of the tower.
And you can't possibly reuse that one?
No.
Even though you're going to take it completely out?
Oh, yeah, I don't believe they reuse the equipment. And
No, but I mean, not to the next location, but you can't, there's no way to
No,
let something.
the one of the property owners there he doesn't want it on there anymore.
So he's done and just wants the tower removed?
He does. And then the other owner has another parcel just down the street.
Did he say why he wanted it removed?
I don't know. He didn't, I wasn't given that reason.
Is the equipment that's planned to go into this new tower the same as what's on the existing tower? Power levels, everything basically the same?
It is.
Or is there increases in,
No, this is essentially like a like for like. They just want to keep the coverage as it is.
so the motivation is not just to build a new tower, is that you've lost a lease with the current owner, so you have to move it?
Yes, sir.
That's the motivation.
Yes, sir.
In regards to your comment about the fall zone, even though the tower's 250, there's a house that's, it's hard to tell, it's fairly close to that. You're saying that your engineer is certified that it would only fall 125 feet?
Yeah,
Yeah,
my understanding they can do more than that, but I was using that as an example that they can certify a certain distance that it will fall within the range.
They collapse pretty good.
That just seems, I guess I'm always looking at the worst-case scenario.
Sure.
Too many of those TV shows with seeing the whole thing fall over.
Right.
Okay, do some research on that. That's awfully close to that one house, is my concern.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the site plan in front of me, but
It's about that 250.
About
I don't know
250.
exactly. It's hard to tell, I didn't have
Okay,
didn't go over there and measure it all.
right.
Yeah, we can certainly provide all that documentation in terms of safety and everything as well as we continue to move throughout the process. But we can't even really start that unless we have the approval on the zoning, so.
You gonna have anything to do with broadband coming in this area?
My understanding is this is just for cellular coverage.
Yeah, so the three major carriers will be on there, and I mean, they'll have their broadband capabilities, but not.
It
there's-
will have broadband?
Yeah, they'll have the latest broadband capabilities, but won't be like, there are no regional internet carriers or anything else on there, to my knowledge.
I don't know, I'd like to see, before we make some deviations, like, sounds like we're shooting from the hip a little bit, I'd like to see our ordinances, and if they need to be updated and brought up to speed. It sounds like we're way behind on this stuff. I just don't want to, I'm just a little uncomfortable with that.
Gotcha. This is a public hearing, so we haven't quite got to the public's comments yet, so I just,
Okay.
if the board doesn't have any further questions of these two gentlemen, we can move on to the audience. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Anybody in the audience who wishes to address this public hearing, please come to the podium, state your name and your address, please.
Yes, my name is Lance Surdy. I live at 7069 Angling Road. This parcel is directly behind my house. And the first question I have is, I need to know if this meeting is just a formality and if the decision's already been made, because they already have the conduit and everything run to this site. Everything's already in the ground for this. So it just kind of seems like it's the cart before the horse, if you're asking me. Second, if you zone this light industrial, and it doesn't really matter if it's got its little unconditional zoning, it's still spot zoning. You put something light industrial in the middle of an RS section of town, it's considered spot zoning. 3 is, one of the reasons I moved out there is because it's nice, it's wooded, and it's desolate. Last thing I want to do is look out my bedroom window and see this thing there. The other one's close enough as it is. The original site that was proposed here about 6-8 months ago was on the south side of Swartout, right at the end of Macomb. And then all of a sudden, it got moved from that site to this site now on Macomb itself. What was the reason why the other site wasn't used? That's my only questions at this point. But I'm totally against it.
Thank you for your comments, appreciate it. Anyone else?
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Denise Napow. I'm at 7995 Macomb Road. American Towers would like to change a residential zone to a light industrial zone next to my house, because it is my understanding that the DNR is kicking them out of their current spot. In their proposal, they say, the chosen site will not cause disruption to neighboring residents and the physical land where the proposed tower would be placed. This is absurd. They haven't even asked the residents. The ones who were lucky enough to find out are here today, and others still don't know. We are here to tell you that they are causing disruption to the land and neighboring residents, and we're very upset about it. Our residential area is defined by peaceful homes and surrounded by natural beauty and wildlife. That's what the Clay Township Master Plan of 2021 is trying to protect. How can you tell me that a blob of steel almost as tall as the Statue of Liberty maintains residential character? The proposed tower contradicts this by jeopardizing our peaceful environment and undermining the residential outdoor lifestyle that we cherish. On top of that, as you already know, there are plenty of violations on the zoning ordinances, such as height limits, insufficient setbacks, lack of documentation supporting this chosen site. The absence of proof for the necessity of this specific location raises serious concerns. So why are we even here discussing this? Safety is another paramount consideration. There were 6 cell phone towers that caught fire in the U.S. in the last 4 months. And that's only what I found publicly. There's no city water on our street, which means no fire hydrants or any additional on-site fire suppression systems. A recent survey by the National Institute for Science, Law, and Public Policy found that 94% of home buyers are less interested and would pay less for a property located near a cell tower or antenna. 79% said that under no circumstance would they even purchase or rent a property within a few blocks of a cell tower. Almost 90% said that they are concerned about the increasing number of cell towers in their residential area. Well, this year, on January 2nd, 2024, Starlink successfully launched the first 6 satellites that will provide direct-to-cell services. Those tests were very successful. Text service begins this year, followed by voice and data services in 2025. That means that very soon there will be absolutely no need for these towers, which is most likely why they're in such a hurry to build them and lock in long-term contracts now. These crooked corporations have already started construction on this proposed site before tonight's meeting without securing any permits. They think they can come into communities such as this one and do whatever they want because of their deep pockets and expensive lawyers. They're also counting on not having enough opposition here from the township's residents. Our quiet, beautiful, rural, wildlife neighborhood surrounded by nature is residential for a reason. And it should stay that way. That's why we came here. 2 years ago, I came here. Please do not let these greed-fueled corporations take away from the little beauty we have left. One last thing. Our neighborhood is extremely quiet. Here's what a cell tower sounds like. Does that sound fit in the lifestyle that I just described? Do you want to hear that 24/7? I certainly do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the audience?
My name's Anthony D'Alessio. I live at 8305 Macomb Road.
Can you spell your last name for us, please?
D'Alessio.
Thank you.
My house is probably within 100 yards, maybe 125 of that proposed site. A couple of reasons I don't want it is because I have young kids, all 3 under 10, and that would be very bad for their health, I believe. You know, there are health reasons with this stuff. You know, that's why they have height restrictions and stuff on these towers, because it's obviously it can't be that close to us too. It's not just a sign or site thing. That's why they have those restrictions. And second is the value of my home. I don't want my home value to drop. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members? I don't see anybody raising their hand or coming forward. All right, planning commission members, have any?
I have one more question maybe
Sure.
for the guys that were proposing. Have you looked at any other sites in the area, or is there any backup plan, or is this, you put all your eggs in this basket and you're waiting?
So we have looked at other sites. Currently, there are no other sites available to us. Again, this is all private property. It's not as if we can just go in and pick, whatever we want. We have to choose from what's available to us, and so far, this is that site.
Okay.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Couple for the attorney and the engineer. Have you started work on this site?
I am not aware of anything that's been done by American Tower on the site. If there has been, certainly nobody informed me about it, but I'm fairly certain that nothing has been done. Yeah.
No, it's been done. I watched them.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on just a second, one at a time, because I don't know who's speaking otherwise. Are you two finished? Do you have any further?
Yeah, that was, if it started construction already on it, curious. That was my main question.
I can certainly tell you that as soon as this meeting is over, that's going to be my first call to our client. But again, we work hand in hand on these things, and I would be absolutely shocked if that's the case. I have no information to suggest that that's true. Perhaps there's some work being done by someone on that site, but I have nothing to suggest that it's by American Tower.
Any idea who it was?
What's the difference? That's may have more information.
Lance, do you have any further information?
Hinkles and McCoy is the one that run all the conduit in. The conduit goes all the way from the cell tower here at the school, all the way down and out Macomb Road, or down Morrow Road, up Sword Out Road, all the way to the Sword Out into Macomb, and it goes up Macomb all the way to this site where there's a pod in the ground and everything else for the wiring. And it's all in the ground already.
And when did that occur?
It's been going on for about 2.5, 3 weeks.
Who would okay it, you guys?
Hold on.
I was curious.
Okay. Does it answer your question?
I guess a question back over to Gary to see whether any permits or anything have been obtained on it. Anything, any idea on
No
it?
permits as of yet, but I also was witness to see that the fiber optics were being put in the road. We received a complaint of that by the people that were out there. I was assured that they did have permits by the County Road Commission to do that. I don't know of any work that has started on the tower itself, but fiber optics, the lines have been put in along the right-of-way of Macomb.
Would Clay require any permits for doing any of that? That's all out of Clay's hands, isn't it?
That would be the Road Commission.
Even onto the site?
Once it got on the site, then that would be us.
And at this point, nothing, you don't have any
As far as I know,
information?
no.
And the county doesn't have to notify us that this is going on? They just go ahead and do it?
No, they certainly don't.
As long as it's in the roadway. But once it comes off and goes onto private
Right, that's
property, then
different.
Clay would get involved with it.
I would agree with that.
And they haven't notified you, obviously.
It is on the property, right?
It's on the property.
Have you, Gary, have you been to this site recently to see?
Not recently, no. Went out there, probably a couple weeks ago, when they were active. I did tell the guys out in the field that, I don't have a dog in the fight if you're in the right-of-way, and St. Clair County Road Commission has authorized you to be in that area. But I said, you bring that wire in, but once you turn into that property, you better bulkhead it off right there, because then we'll have issues locally.
Any other planning commission member comments?
It's
Questions?
disturbing, they just went ahead without even approval on it. That's disturbing.
Karen, do you have any further input for us?
They don't need it if they stick by the road.
They came in the property, but
If they're in the right of way, they don't need it. Gary, can you just clarify? Did you witness they're on the property at this point, or just in the right of way?
When I went there, they were strictly on the right-of-way.
Okay. Any other questions?
I've got one. Somebody had mentioned, one of the comments, that another location on this parcel of property was looked at for the tower previously. If that's true, why was it moved then over toward the residences, or what happened there?
I don't follow we're moving from this lot because one of the property owners doesn't want to have it on his property anymore.
No, not from the existing location. Where the new tower is proposed, someone had mentioned that it was in a different location on this parcel.
I'd have to look more into that, I don't have that information.
Okay.
All right, we're going to close the public hearing. It's now 7:36. Board members, any further discussion?
Well, I'm concerned with the issue that the residents brought up with home values and with my concerns as found as pristine areas, basically, forested and that. And although the township is looking at broadband, but I don't think this is the place to have it. I happen to be the board representative for the planning commission, so just so you all know.
I understand why can't stay where they're at. I'm wondering if there's other alternative sites that would make more sense at this particular point.
There's a note on the, what we received in our email. It says currently 1 out of 10 cell communication towers in Clay Township are zone industrial. The rest are either zone commercial or RS1. So I guess this would have to go to the planners. Does it have to be zoned light industrial?
That's where it's permitted.
That's where it's permitted?
That's where it's
So
permitted in the code.
if it wasn't permitted in the commercial or RS1, do they have to obtain a special land, is it permitted in a special land use at all for that, or is?
It's not listed as a special land use. in the
Okay.
districts.
Because I said only 1 out of 10 are in industrial areas, and that kind of puts a predicament on why aren't the other 90% in commercial or RS1. That's just a note on that somebody hand wrote. And
I don't know where the other locations are. It's possible that, like Kathy had brought up, we should probably take a look at, see when this wireless communication facility ordinance was passed. I don't know how old these towers are, but they could have been put up prior to the passing of the ordinance for wireless communication facilities. So.
I think some more research needs to be done.
I agree. I think there's a lot of state land in the area. I know
Yes.
Mark has concern, but I guess I'm unsure why some state land wouldn't be a better location away from residents. I mean, I'll be honest, if my house was 250 feet from this, there'd be no way I would be in favor of it. So I guess I feel for the residents. I appreciate what everybody had stated. You had, great concerns, well-spoken. I don't know. If we're ready to make a motion, I'll make a motion.
I would concur too with what you're saying. It seems like a bad mix for the neighborhood.
I think so.
Seems like with all the open area that we have, there has to be a spot. There's been no study presented to us to say, hey, we've reviewed everything. These are the possible sites. I don't see anything in front of us that really reviewed it and said there's absolutely not one other site out there. And being in such close proximity to residential just seems like a bad mix and something you don't really have to do because seems like there'd be other areas available.
So is someone making a motion?
I'd make a motion to deny the request for rezoning from RS1 to I1.
Support.
Okay, so we have a motion by Chris Hiltonen. Who wants to support?
I support it.
Okay, Mark's supporting. Let's give him a moment to write.
well, that's what, we have our fancy new form.
We do have a new form.
And that's, because this goes recommendation to trustees. So
We don't need to do that one.
that's what I was going to say. That's
You just need, when it's in your hand?
this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
So if I could prevail upon the commission to perhaps consider a postponement. I know there's been questions about, is there possibly another site? Again, they wouldn't be sending me here if we could have found another site, but I certainly, could go back to the client and say, okay, let's really do our due diligence here over again. And if we can't, let's present the information so the commission can say, okay, we've looked at all these other spots and there's none of those that are going to work. So, certainly you're free to make whatever decision you'd like, but if you're not inclined to move forward today, I would request a postponement as was noted in the planner's recommendation. But again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. It was noted in the planner's recommendation. Right now, we do have a motion not for postponement, but for denial. So,
I'll stand with my motion.
and Mark seconded. So, but I do appreciate your comments, and it was noted in the planner's report, so I do appreciate you bringing that to our attention also. I'm just letting him catch up with writing.
Okay.
So the motion is,
My motion is to deny the request for conditional rezoning from RS1 to I1.
and is supported by Mark. Sue, you got the motion, correct? Any further discussions? Roll call, please.
Mark Bouchard,
Yes.
Christopher Daggy,
Yes.
Chris Hiltunen,
Yes.
Christine Holcomb is absent, Tom Kozel,
Yes.
Robert Musling, I'll say no, Wayne Torno,
Yes.
and Kathy Schweikart
Yes. And that was for the,
to deny zoning change.
tonight, and it's for, just so you can put this on here,
No,
it's
he's
for
come back with another
JPZ 2023-012. Okay? I just thought I'd help you out. Thank you so much for attending, I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone else. So,
Quick question for you. Can the Board of Trustees override our decision on this?
I don't believe so. Aaron, or,
Can
this
the
is
Board-
not,
Can the Board of Trustees override, we're just
Sure they could if they wanted.
so they could override, correct?
If it comes on the agenda.
if it comes on the agenda.
And who would make it go on the agenda? Would it be the
Nobody.
applicant?
Let Steve, hold on.
No.
I
What's
didn't
that?
hear you.
It has to be on the trustees' agenda.
Okay, so let me ask you this question.
So that's,
Should have been a recommendation, not, yes. We should correct that right now before we get too far. It should have been a recommendation. So,
So I will make the recommendation.
hold on a second.
Yeah,
then it needs to go in here.
Yes.
Gee, thanks.
make a motion to amend the motion.
We're going to make this really muddy, and unfortunately, they just left.
You should just amend the motion to make it a recommendation.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll amend the motion to make a recommendation to the Township Board
Mark,
to deny the request.
you going to support it still?
But we can't do, we have to, that's as far as we can go as a recommendation.
Yeah.
I'm not supporting the amendment. Go to the board.
That's just the way it's handled,
That's
isn't it?
just, yeah, we
just
made a
a
choice.
mistake by not saying in our
Oh,
original
okay, so
motion.
it's all in one then, okay.
It's all in
right.
one, yes.
That's
That was a
different.
mistake on our part by not saying it's a
I'll support.
recommendation. Thank you. That's what happens when we take a few months not doing this.
So I think
All right.
everybody-
Sue, are you clear on the motion? Discussion? If not, would you please take roll call again for that?
Yes. So this is going to be to amend the motion to deny the zoning change,
Yeah,
to be a recommendation to
The Board of Trustees.
Board of Trustees.
yes.
So Deborah Addy is absent. Mark Bouchard,
Yes.
Christopher Daggy,
Yes.
Chris Hiltunen,
Yes.
Christine Holcomb is absent. Tom Kozel,
Yes.
Robert Musling, yes. Wayne Torno,
Yes.
and Kathy Schweikart.
Yes. All right, thank you. Okay, the next item for public hearing would be applicants request special land use to allow marina construction on the subject property. Hold on.
So, on our new fancy form,
Correct.
we're gonna have, everybody's gonna have to sign.
Correct.
Reasons for decision.
How about we do this? We can finish that up at the end.
Okay.
Is that okay?
So, that sounds wonderful.
So that way we can keep moving?
Yep.
Is that all right? You okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. The subject property, which is located at 9735 Pearl Beach, and I'm going to open the public hearing at 8:45. Steve?
Good evening. You have before you a request from Gabriel Marine. They're asking for marine construction on their property, which is located in 9735 Pearl Beach Road. They're currently zoned as general business. Marine construction is allowable use subject to special land use. Special land use approval. The applicant in a letter dated, that's presented to you on October 27, 2023, and indicated that the property has been utilized for marine construction for several years. And their intent is to seek compliance, seek approval to, in their opinion, to allow compliance with the township ordinance. The site plan that was submitted indicates that a new asphalt parking area with 10 parking spaces will be constructed on the south side of the building. I do understand that it's an older site plan, but by submitting that with this special land use request, they're going to be obligated to make improvements to the site to meet that site plan requirements. There are a number of conditions according to your zoning ordinance. If you allow section 50, under section 1503, if you allow a marine construction, and those conditions are when it's adjacent to a residential use or a one-family residential district or a multiple-family district, a minimum 25-foot green belt is required, or a masonry wall shall be permitted along the property. They are proposing the property to the east is zoned R1 single family, which requires a 25-foot landscape setback, but they're proposing indicates a 6-foot high wood fence and a 10-foot wide landscape area. It also, the ordinance requires that there shall be a landscape area of at least 12 feet between the property line and the street. They're showing a 10-foot wide landscape area. Maintenance equipment and materials shall be sneakily stored in the area. You need to obtain assurances from the applicant that all of that condition will be met. There should be no storage of used materials or loose materials, dredging materials, spoils, lands. You need to obtain assurances from the applicant that that condition is going to be met. And there will be no construction or assembly of large barges permitted. So you'll need to receive assurances that that will be permitted. Now, if you do receive assurances and you're happy with the responses, then I have no objection. We have no objection to allowing this. However, you need to be reminded that special land use, and you need to be assured by the developer, or be assured in your mind that there's no harmful external effects on surrounding property is one of the major conditions of a special land use.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
We keep using the word we need.
Pardon?
If we're satisfied with assurances verbally, assurances written?
This is discretionary. Special land use is discretionary. So it's whatever the planning commission desires.
Because we've had verbal assurances in the past on different projects, not this one in particular, but other ones. But is it an acceptable method, not only a verbal assurance, but a written assurance?
You can ask for written assurances, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that was Steve. The applicant for this project or its representative, if you would like to come forward, state your name, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm John McKenzie. I'm representing not a multinational corporation or local resident, Mr. Gabriel, who also owns Gabriel Marine Construction. His son Josh is here as well, who helps with the company and is hoping to take it over one day. I think, Steve, the gentleman's name was, for giving you the lay of the land here. To recap, we are asking for a special use permit under section 16.02, subsection 7, and section 20.39 of the ordinance. This property address is 9735 Pearl Beach Boulevard. It's right next to, right by Johnny Lega's. Johnny Lega's is in the front part, and then Mr. Gabriel's Marina is in the back, right up against the North Channel. It's also where, if any of you know where Breaking Barriers is, they have a pier where they take, disabled veterans out. It's all in that same area. So if you're looking at the channel to the right, it's all commercial uses. To the left, there is a residential properties, but there's a privacy fence that separates it. Mr. Gabriel's been a lifelong resident of this community, 58 plus years, to my understanding. He purchased the marina in 2013 and has operated it since that time as a small marina and marine construction. We're not talking about a heavy duty or large operation, and if you're familiar with the property, you can't have a large operation there. It's a very small, very narrow piece. I think they have 2 barges there where they take steel and things in and out into the lake to provide services to the residents for boat hoists, seawall work, piers, those types of things. The property is Zone C3, which is already commercial. That's approved for marina already. And this is just my opinion, but we are to me, somewhat splitting hairs between a marina and marine construction. I mean, as a marina, he could have a hoist there that's lifting, 50, 60-foot boats in and out of the water and storing them. I'm not really sure what the difference is if he has a barge there that's taking steel out into the channel. And beyond that, he's already been doing this since 2013. And from my understanding, there's families that have owned this marina going back to early 1900s, the Avers and the Lozons, who have owned this property and done the same exact thing since the 1900s, servicing this community with marine construction. So all that we're doing is, I'm a firm believer in doing things the right way and not flying under the radar. And that's why I've advised my client to come in front of you and get permission to operate properly under your ordinance instead of doing it vice versa. And he's not the only one. I'm familiar with this community. I've lived here. I still live in Chesterfield. I know the marine construction marinas around here, and I know that there's others in the community who are operating in even R1 and C3 districts that are not approved for marine construction, but they're still doing it. And my client's here trying to do it the right way. So I think if he's not approved, and I don't know if those others have special land use permits, so I'm not going to jump too far, but I know there's on Anchor Bay Drive and on Harson's. I'm not sure if they have permits, but if they don't, I mean, I don't think it'd be good for the community to shut these companies down. Okay, so that's why we're in front of you, to do it the right way. Mr. Gabriel has also, to my understanding, done work for the township, marine construction. So the township's certainly aware of it, and he's in the harbor where they have. There's now a township pier there and a park that's been put in, and he's dredged out that harbor. He's done work on the seawall. He's driven piers for the township. So he's supported the township with his marine construction business. The standard here, there's 9 elements that must be considered by the board to approve this. And if we walk through them one by one, it says, will this change be in accordance with the general objectives, intent, and purpose of the ordinance? And I believe that it will. And the reason that I say that is because he's already in a zoning district that allows for a marina. So that is the intent and plan already, to allow him to do marine construction. It's not changing anything, and it's already been going on, to my understanding, since the 1900s. The second question is, will it be in accordance with the goals and objectives of the township? I think this is just my personal view, one of the best and most beautiful things about the township is the attraction of the water. The North Channel runs through Clay Township, right? And that's why a lot of people will pay money and buy expensive homes to live on the channel and have that resource and enjoy the water activities. Why would you not want a marine contractor in this area to service those folks? Not only does it generate revenue and bring business into the township, you have a local contractor to service people's needs. Number 3, will it be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained in harmony with the existing and intended character? The character's already set. It's already been this way for more than 58 years. In front of the marina is Johnny Lega's bar. This certainly isn't harming them. And to the right is a vacant lot. And then to the left, the residential houses, you have a privacy fence. And I'm not aware of any complaints that have been submitted by any of the residents unless somebody's showed up here tonight. As far as there being hazardous or disturbing, number 4 is it will not be hazardous or disturbing to existing or future uses in the vicinity. And again, I'm not trying to be repetitive, but it's already been ongoing and there's been no reports or complaints of hazards occurring on the property. Number 6 is will not create excessive additional requirements at public costs or facilities. I'm not aware of any costs to the township for this. Will not involve, number 7 is it will not involve use, activities, processes, materials, or equipment or operation that will be detrimental to any person or cause excessive traffic, noise, vibration, etc. There's been no complaints of that. The traffic is pretty much coming in and off the channel with the barge. It's not going to jam up M29. I am aware that they bring in steel sometimes, but the truck backs down Pearl Beach Boulevard. It's not blocking the road, and it's not blocking access to the bar. So he's really the only other structure that's back there. Number 8 is will ensure that the environment shall be preserved in its natural state and there will be minimum impact on the soils. He's not performing marine construction on the site except for what was done for the township or breaking barriers next door. This is just simply where he has the barges, so there's not a concern about disturbing the soils or hazards to the environment there. And if there was anything to be done there, it would go through Eagle, and Eagle would certainly ensure that the environment's not being harmed through that process. Number 9, it will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of the surrounding property. I think I've addressed that, but if there's any questions, certainly let me know. And the final point that I want to make is, again, Mr. Gabriel is here because he's respectfully requesting that this be approved and wants to be aligned with the ordinance. If for some reason the board is not in favor and doesn't want to approve it, I do believe he qualifies for a safe harbor because under Michigan law, if a property has been used in a certain way before the ordinance, he's grandfathered in. And I haven't presented evidence in front of the board for this, but my client certainly has personal knowledge that it's been used for marine construction since the 1920s. This ordinance was enacted in 2007. So I believe that if the board won't approve it, he still has that safe harbor, but he wants to be aligned and work with the township on this. And above that, I think most of you are probably aware about the park that's been put in. So I do have one concern with what Steve mentioned with the site plan, is that was an old site plan that was done before the park. So there may have to be some amendments or changes to that to work with what the township is doing there. And I've spoken with Mr. Bryson and some of the folks, DT is running the easement right now. We're working with them on the easement and some things like that. So I don't want to be locked into that site plan yet because there may be changes to that because of what else is going on out there, if that makes sense to everybody. So I would ask that the board approve the special land use, but subject to a site plan that the township and Mr. Gabriel can agree upon. If that, just because I don't know what else they're doing. I know the parking lot's been put in for the park, which is right across from Legos. You've probably seen that. But now DT is running an easement. I just got the documents a couple of weeks ago and marked them up and sent them back. They're running an easement from M29 all the way down almost to the channel, a utility easement. So that's going to affect the site plan, certainly. And then so if Darren wants to put in a parking lot, or has to, according to that site plan, I have to look at that. So I can't lock him into that right now.
Well, thank you for your presentation. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Board members, any questions at this particular point?
I know Chris has got a bunch, so I have a couple before he jumps onto it. I got just a couple questions for Steve real quick. The site plan, it was brought up more than once. The site plan is a 2014 site plan. On that site plan, so it was an approved site plan. So essentially everything that was on that site plan should have been completed already, which we know the parking lot has not been completed, correct? Because we're bringing that up now. And then landscaping and barriers between the residents and the other parking. So if there were to be a change or something or request, my personal feeling is that there need to be an amended site plan before we agree. Because if we're going to make, my personal opinion again, if we're going to make a movement tonight on it, and you're telling us that the site plan is not valid, then it doesn't seem like it's the move now. So I don't know what your thought is, Steve. Do we?
Well, I was under the assumption that site plan was submitted because there was an intent to go and complete that site plan. If that's not the case, yeah, you're absolutely right. We should see a site plan as proposed.
Okay, and that's because in reading your recommendation and stuff, I felt like you had assumed that the parking lot was going in, but then these guys, it didn't look like that was the thought.
Correct. That was my assumption.
Okay. So that was a question I had, and then so on the approved site plan that's already there, there was I guess it was approved with a wooden fence and 10 foot of landscape.
Correct.
If they were to move forward now, that's what was approved, correct? I mean, we can't go back and say, well, you should put up a block wall because that's what the ordinance says. But if they have to open up the site plan, then those things have to be discussed.
If that's one of the questions, then I would agree with you.
Okay, that's all I have.
If I could address one thing on the landscaping.
Yep.
I know when we were doing the site plan with the township for the park that was put in, they put in, Darren, did they put in landscaping or a rock bed next to your building? Rock bed. So there's been a rock bed that was put in, but that was at the township's and the contractor's request, Cordes Brothers or whoever was doing it, I think for water mitigation and flow because of what they're doing. So that's why I'm telling you, it's not that Darren's not willing to comply with that site plan. I just have concerns as to, it has to be a marriage with the township with what you guys are doing there. That's all I'm saying. And that's changed recently.
Anybody else before Chris? Because we know Chris might have a few.
I just know that site plan is a sticky point, you know. I mean, I like it, I agree with it, but without that site plan being updated,
I don't disagree with you.
you know, we got in trouble with that before.
Is the only issue the parking lot? From what you're saying?
We don't know if that's the only issue, because I know Chris has some questions.
Okay.
You gave us a heads up, didn't you, Chris? Go ahead.
Well, a few questions. Why wasn't the original site plan completed? If that's what was agreed to back when it was purchased, why wasn't it completed 10 years later?
Yeah, I can't speak to why it wasn't completed 10 years later. I don't have an answer for you on that.
One of the questions that came up in the review of 14, when it was purchased, when they came before the board, a question was asked specifically whether this was going to be used for marine construction. And it specifically said that it was not going to be used for marine construction. And obviously, that's not the case. Whether it was used for marine construction, that property prior, it certainly looked like it was a marina, but I didn't see any evidence that it was used for marine construction. I wasn't there. I didn't walk through the building 10 years ago, but it sure didn't seem like anything was, you know, the building, it would be hard to get barges or equipment in and out because of the docks that were there. You really couldn't get barges in. There was a hoist there to bring boats in. It was very low-key, appeared to be a very low-key operation. I don't know what it was 100 years ago, but or even when that building went in. But when they purchased it, it was just a marina, and there was assurances by the applicant that it was going to continue just as a marina, but they wanted to make some site improvements to continue use of the marina, not to change it for marine construction.
Understood. And I think, you know, if that was 10 years ago, people's business operations and opportunities change. So if the intent was to just be a marina, but there's revenue to be generated and opportunity to do marine and marine construction, I mean, that would make sense to do it.
When did it switch over?
I'm sorry?
When did they start using it for marine?
I don't know the exact date, sir, but if you went, what I can tell you is I have been out to the property several times before 2013 and after 2013, and I personally haven't witnessed much change at all. It's still a very low-key operation.
Well, you've got some pretty large cranes that are running around there that they're loading on public roads for steel. You've got a bathroom that's there with handicap for coming from the dock area that have to walk right where your loading zone is on a public road. Cranes are overhanging public road, or a crane is overhanging public road for loading steel. It doesn't seem very safe for the public from the use of that nice dock that's down there to have heavy equipment running around through there.
So a lot of the stuff that you're raising, sir, was raised with the township before they decided to put this park in and do what they did? Because remember, my client is grandfathered in. So if we wanted to challenge that use, that could have been done. And we didn't. We worked with the townships because the township really wanted this park. We had detailed discussions with Mr. Bryson and Christine Anderson, the township's attorney, and I was on every single call about how we were going to work together so that my client could continue to operate his property that he's done before this park was put in. And we were assured that there would be cooperation on both sides. So if there's a concern with people's health and safety, that was raised by us repeatedly. So that's a discussion to have with the township because we were there first.
Well, there's no information provided. I'm not aware of any information like
Well,
that
I was on the
provided
call,
to-
so I can tell you.
provided to the board. I'm not
Yeah.
doubting your word in one way. Not-
You have a use that's been going on for nearly 100 years, and a community that's developed significantly over 100 years. And this is nothing new. This has been, look at Ron's Marine is operating, and I love Ron, I know him, but he's operating marine construction on Anchor Bay Drive next to two houses.
Yep.
So, come on.
I know there's Wetmore's and the.
Right, so
Olson and-
we're here doing it the right way, and that's at the advice of me to my client, because I think it needs to be done the right way.
At this point, any further questions from the board members? Because it is a public hearing.
I guess I have a concern. I know he's been doing marine construction and some construction out there for quite a while. Whether or not it was permitted or not, I'm not sure, but I can check on that. But what I see and what I worry about the most is that he's doing the marine construction. If that starts to expand outside the perimeters of his property line, then we have an issue. And I'm not so sure that that isn't ever going to happen. I know it's going to happen. So we need to do something with that. I don't see you said 9 assurances. I only see 5 in my document. But
What's in the
completely
ordinance?
different from what you said.
And I can address your concern, and I agree with you, but I think the boundaries of the property protect that. Mr. Gabriel has no right to operate outside of his property lines, and he hasn't done that.
Right.
So he's a small operation. If he grows to the point where he has the cash flow and revenue to buy a bigger space, then I hope he does that. But right now, he's confined to the area that he purchased. He has no right to go beyond that, and I'm not aware of him doing that. So if that does become an issue, people will be your property rights are a bundle of sticks, and if you go beyond your bundle of sticks, there's consequences for that. I don't see him doing that. And if his operation does grow, then, he can look to purchase a larger property for a bigger operation.
Yeah, as far as a park is concerned, that's been in the works for as long as Gabriel's been over there in his building. So it's not something that just sprung up overnight. Okay.
That's
So I
fine,
wanna
but
make that point clear.
And I appreciate that, but there's a difference between a concept and a site plan and an existing use.
I understand.
For a guy that purchased a small family business for him and his son, for his son to take over when he's not here, and that's what it is. So
understand.
that was there first.
Well, I appreciate your input. I'm going to open it, or ask any members of the audience who would like to come forward and make any comments. Please do so now and
Thank
state
you.
your name. Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone for this particular public hearing want to come forward? Sure. Just please state your name and address.
Joe Vansamaze, 7237 Bluebill. The only thing I have to offer is somebody said here, the new park's got a restroom down there. There is no restroom there. The restroom is up in Johnny Lega's, almost out to the highway. There used to be some outhouses. I go to that dock every day for the last 8 years. Is there anything you want to know about what goes on in that dock? Talk to me. But there's no outhouse. They moved it way up to the road. And right now it's locked for the season. So anybody out there using that pier, fishing, and they still do, there's nowhere for them to go now. And then when it is open, they close it at 11 o'clock. Most of those guys fish out there all night. So that's one bad thing. I've seen him operate down there a long time. I don't see where there's any danger involved. I have to support what Darren's shooting for. I really do. And I'm down there all the time. Personally, I think that park was a waste of taxpayers' money. Because you got Pearl Beach Boulevard, then you got that little 10-spot parking area that they put in. Then you have Lega's property, and then you have Clay Township's property. The property that Clay Township bought, that's where the park was supposed to be in the original drawings. Now it's not used for anything. And technically, if somebody goes down Pearl Beach Boulevard and parks in one of those parking spots, they would have to cross Lega's property to get to the park property. So that whole thing is a mess. It really is a mess. And I have to support what Darren's doing. But there's no restroom there.
Thank you for your comments, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Any other members of the audience like to come forward? I do not see any other members. Steve, do you have any further comments, or Gary on this particular? Nope. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing at 8:12. Board members, any further discussion? Comments? Thoughts?
Steve, do you feel that site plan that was submitted is good enough, or should it be updated, amended?
The site plan submitted,
Yeah.
you know, it was
No, we need it.
reasonable, but if they, I mean, it appears that there's got to be modifications made to that.
Yeah. That would be these assurances that you have listed here?
Is that the original site plan from where you
It
purchased?
doesn't show the,
Or,
I think it's the 2014.
2014, yeah.
I'm not certain when that was submitted, other than the.
14.
it was 14.
14 when he
14.
purchased,
2014?
when he purchased.
Is it a recommendation or is it an approval?
It was a recommendation, but I couldn't find any information whether it got approved by the board, even the.
Well, do we,
No, Steve, our action tonight, no matter what we do, would be a recommendation, correct?
No, you're final authority on the special land use approval, it's not a recommendation.
That's right, you're right. We're back to-
So you can, approve special land use or approve it subject to a site plan being brought back to you? Or-
Yes.
Or
Yes.
not approve the special land use, just up to you.
That's our assurances we can do in writing.
right, that would be it.
Our new forms are a little confusing.
Ma'am, can I make one request?
Sure, go for it.
If I just want to make sure we're clear on what we're requesting, it would be a special approval subject to the resubmitted site plan. I've got to work on that with Christine Anderson, who's the township attorney, to make sure
Correct.
we all.
Well, we appreciate you working with our township attorney, that's for sure.
She's great.
So, without working out the details, how do you?
Hold on, wait a minute, second. Hold on. What were you saying, Steve? Sorry.
That would be an action that the board could take,
Correct.
yes.
Because we don't really have a site plan in front of us right now we would be stamping, so go
You
ahead.
certainly would want to, I can't see how you want to make any recommendations without having a site plan in front of us. And assurances that it's even going to be completed, because the last site plan, after a decade, still isn't completed. So-
Steve, you can help me with this.
Bryce's been working on a dock for 20 years.
Yeah, well, it doesn't mean it's a good thing, though, does it?
No?
I mean, I can kind of get the old site plan not being ever finished if things didn't really ever change. But if they needed to redo a site plan, that if we did anything tonight, they'd have to come back before us anyways, correct?
Yes.
So that's, at this point, I don't know.
Would it cost him any more money? I mean, if he had to come back again with another plan, he's probably already submitted some cash, I'm guessing, right?
I do not, he'd probably have to pay for the fee for a site plan review. Right, Steve?
Well, I'd like to
On your-
just hold him to one fee instead of
We
possibly
have an
two.
additional fee for site plan approval,
Correct.
but
And re-review of a site plan?
that's part of the process, that's nothing unusual.
No, I didn't say it was unusual.
That's true, and Mr. Gabriel is incurring fees in particular to me, to work with the township to sort this stuff out. We would appreciate if we had at least one step done and know that we're working on a path that makes sense instead of an outright denial. So we'd appreciate if it's an approval subject to site plan.
You can do that. Understand? Because we've done it in the past with other site plans. We just don't have a site plan that's like in this type of form in front of us.
Right.
or in any form.
Well, just the old one.
Well, but if they're going to deviate from that, you really don't have a site
Just the
plan.
old one.
You have a proposed one from 10 years ago that you really don't know what they're going to work out.
Well, it's missing the new bathrooms, right?
What's that?
It's missing the new restrooms.
Well, it's missing the fence.
Yeah,
on
these
the drive side,
items here.
Not to mention the curbs in the road.
Correct.
All that
Curbs,
other stuff, so.
The bathroom, the cabana, whatever that is out there. So there's a lot of things that are missing on that site plan.
Would it
I'd like
be
to see-
appropriate to
I'm-
table
I'm
it?
more concerned about,
Yes.
come on.
Until we get a site plan, that way we're not leaving loose ends.
How would be the least effective, or not effective, least costly for
Right.
the applicant and everybody else if we tabled it and asked them to submit an updated site plan?
You'd have to ask the applicant, the cost for us would be the same. It's going to be a submittal of a site plan.
Okay.
Either way, right?
Either way.
I think it's cleaner.
However the board wants to handle it. I mean,
We're going to need a site plan that's more accurate.
I understand, and I have to work with the township to do that, because I think you guys own the property, but it's all contiguous, so we can't just unilaterally do things because I don't want to upset or frustrate the township. We worked on their site plan with them. We have to.
I think we're all very familiar with this location.
Yeah.
It's been going, a discussion for quite a few years here. We're just trying to find the best way to make this come together. And it sounds like you've been very appreciative working with the township in regards to the bathroom and up here and everything else. So we would like to continue that. So if anyone would have a motion in that direction?
I'd motion to table it until a site plan is submitted.
Supports.
So we have a motion to table until a site plan.
Updated site plan is
Thank
submitted.
you. Submitted. Support by, I'm sorry.
Chris?
Okay, so we have a motion, support, any discussion? Everybody understand the motion?
Chris and Chris?
Chris and Chris.
There we go.
Yeah, Chris.
Deborah Addy is absent. Mark Bouchard,
Yes.
Christopher Daggy,
Yes.
Chris Altunin.
Yes.
Christine Holcomb is absent. Tom Kozel.
Yes.
Robert Muesling, yes. Wayne Torno.
Yes.
And Kathy Schweikart.
Yes. Okay, motion passes. Everybody knows what we have to do, correct?
Understood, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are now going to move on to item number 6, new business, which would be 6A, which is applicant is requesting a change of use for a public lodging facility in Zone C3. Steve?
This is, I don't want to say unusual, but it's a rare request, but it's certainly an appropriate request. The applicant, the Moscas, I hope I said that right, our request, they're located on 5350 Point Trumbull. The property is Zone C3, General Commercial. And the subject property is occupied by a former office building, and it has been renovated to a public lodging facility. The facility would have 6 private rooms, 8 bunk rooms, and 4.5 bathrooms, according to the application, with a maximum capacity of 24 people. Now, in that district, you are allowed certain uses like motels, hotels, inns. But it doesn't specifically say a public lodging facility, and this is a little bit different. This is more short-term rental. It's not operated as a motel or a hotel, like our typical, as we're aware of what they are. We did have a meeting with the applicants and with our attorney also, and there was a clause in our ordinance that says that the Planning Commission can approve this use. Our chairman was here there.
I was present also.
You were partially.
It was in October, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah. And it says that the Planning Commission, if they agree that it's a similar use, that a public lodging facility is a similar use to hotels, motels, and inns, that you have the right to approve this. So they're asking for your authorization that this use is similar.
Appreciate that, Steve. I also want to bring to everybody's attention, when we got here today, I had in front of my seat from Fannon's products from Dave Fannin. Did everybody get a chance to read this communication?
I don't think I've seen it.
What is it?
It was, I can read it.
Oh, I
It
see.
is, Steve, did you get a copy or no?
I did
Yeah, I was
not.
wondering what this is about.
It says,
Oh, flooding.
This says, Cindy, I will not be able to make the Clay Township Planning Commission tonight, and this is from Mr. Dave Fannin, to file complaint for the flooding caused by my neighbor. Please alert the board, if possible, that almost half of my parking lot is covered in water because of his berm in the wetlands. This is causing a problem with parking and possible destruction of my pavement. Sincerely, Dave Fannin. This is dated Wednesday, January 24th at 4:58 p.m. And then I have, looks like an email chain. Then it says on Thursday, December 28th, 2023, it says, good morning, Dave Fannin. This is from Steve Lott from Eagle. I manage complaints regarding wetlands, lakes, and streams within St. Clair, Macomb, Oakland, and Wayne County. If you have any further complaints, I'm a good person to contact. Eagle WRD did observe a violation of 5350 Point Trumbull, and we have issued a violation notice to restore the property to a natural state. From your reference of the VN number, it appears you have a copy of the violation notice, and from that you can see our instructions for the restoration and the boundary of the restoration. For any violation notice, we intend to have the recipient complete all the instructions. The property owner and the WRD have been working together to restore the property in a timely manner. Generally, we don't comment on the status of violations beyond what was stated above. However, during our most recent inspection, we did notice there was a berm on that side of the property, and we instructed the property owner to remove the dirt within the wetland and regrade to the original elevation. I do not know if that will solve all your drainage problems. Any damages that you may have received from the disruption of the natural flow of water across your property will be a civil matter. Hope this answers your questions. Steve Lott. So that was, we didn't have this information until we got here today.
Right.
It's certainly a serious issue and a ordinance enforcement or engineering issue. But to be quite honest, that's not relative to the request tonight that they be considered a use similar to a hotel or motel. That's all you're being asked for tonight.
Right.
And I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention since they weren't able to be present. At least I wanted to read it into the record so we can
Yeah, that
acknowledge
should-
the fact that we did receive
Should refer
information.
that to ordinance enforcement and the engineer.
All right. Thank you for your presentation. Is the applicant present, would like to come forward? Oops, you dropped.
I'll address that right off the bat.
Wait, first state your name and address,
I'm
please.
Dan Matska. My wife Kelly and I own the property on, I forget even the address, 9395 Point Trumbull Avenue. I'm going to address that right away. Eagle told me to put the dirt, or I put the dirt. So whatever Steve said in his thing, that's where the dirt had to go. Any flooding issues, and he's never come over and said a word to me, but any flooding issues he's had as a result of that dirt being there is just taking it from my garage and putting it out in his and my parking lot at the same time. So this piece of property here has been a wasteland for the past 20 years, 25 years, where every property around it is built up this high and it sits down here. Okay, so we did remove the dirt that they asked us to remove. And this is a long discussion. I don't know if we need to get into it tonight or not, but before we ever got this property, we met with the township supervisor. We met with a couple of board members. We had them over there and said, hey, here's some of our ideas. You know, what do you think of them? Hey, beautiful, great, everything's wonderful. Well, you know, we found out that it wasn't so wonderful, and that I'm not here to discuss the past or anything like that. I'm just saying there are reasons that things happened over there. And again, this property had been nothing but a wasteland for the last 20 to 25 years, including, you know, the fire department's got, according to Eagle right now, I have to rip out 2,500 square feet of the Clay Township Fire Department parking lot. So, you know, take it from there. You know, Eagle's pretty much out of control right now. So, that aside, what we really are here to do is to get the building opened and running as a lodging. And I guess there's been some discussions about, what's appropriate and what isn't, and what do you call it, and an Airbnb and then an inn or whatever. So there's been all kinds of discussions on what fits in there and what doesn't fit in there. As we went through this process, we relied on what we read on the internet and some of the things we did, and if we didn't do everything perfectly, then, I'm here to apologize right now. But I believe we have worked it out with the township. We have done the things we needed to do. We have acquired any permits we needed to acquire. So I believe all of that is done. If I'm mistaken, then, I apologize for anything we may have missed. We took an old rundown building that people were living in it. We took out 2.5 contractor garbage bags of whippets out of there. I'm not sure if anybody knew what a whippet is. I didn't know before we took them out of there. Drug paraphernalia, let's put it that way. All kinds of stuff in that building. We restored that building, and I'm sorry I didn't make a bunch of copies of this, but this is what the interior of the building looks like now. You can pass it down if you could after you look at it. And it kind of describes what we have. Again, the nomenclature Airbnb to me is like a tech stock of the 90s. It's not there. It's just a name. There's nothing substantial there. It's a short-term stay, and that's what we're trying to do, right? So I think what we offer is something the community needs, a place where you can park boats and trailers as you're staying there, rather than, on Inglewood where you can't get up and down the road, or on Lake Drive or whatever, where somebody parks something there and you can't get up and down it. I think we have done something that's good for the community, that is going to help the community. It's something it needs, and it's something that, we believe in. We don't do things halfway. I'm retired, and my wife's retired too at this time, and, we do something. We're doing this as a second income kind of thing. We're not builders, and we're not doing any of that kind of stuff. We're just trying to do some stuff to move along, and I think this is something community needed. So that was our objective when we did this. If we made some mistakes along the way, we apologize, but we're here now, so that's what we're trying to do.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Just gonna keep moving with this. Any members have any questions at the moment?
Pictures are
I've
beautiful.
had the opportunity to walk through that facility as well as the property itself, and it's very well put together. It's a remarkable job that you guys have done on that.
Thank you.
And I remember that building not only being the C3, or I don't even think there was any C3 or C2 business in it at any point in time, but I think it used to be an office building at some point in time, and maybe it was an apartment as well, too, back in, 25 years ago. I'm not sure. But, Clay Township certainly doesn't have a problem with what you're trying to accomplish here, because we certainly do need more transit housing, as this is, so.
I think it's a great use. I mean, we are in need of places with lodging where people can park boats, because I think everybody understands that the lake that we're sitting on is a heavy attractant to fishermen, and you see them wedged in all these little homes, like you said, on lake. You got boats wedged in and kind of causing irritation to neighbors. Where this one is, I mean, it's in the right district, I feel. I think you got parking there where you can house a lot of people. I wish I just lived further away so I could stay there and then come fishing here. So I think it looks great. I mean, I think it's a great project.
To address the other thing again, I'll go over and talk to Fannin tomorrow. This is not something.
I read it because it was here today.
I pump the water out of it. Every day when there's water, I pump it out of there. So it's not like I'm trying to flood him out. I don't want any water there. Eagle made me put that dirt
It's a
there.
little rainy now, but, no, I read the communication just so it's acknowledged on the
Yeah,
record.
absolutely.
That's
I understand, and
So-
I will take care of it tomorrow.
That's all I was doing in that regard. But as far as,
Just another statement, I'm very familiar with the encroachment on the fire department onto your property, so,
that's another topic.
yeah, definitely.
Yes. Any other comments or questions?
Couple questions for him, if I may.
Sure.
The modifications that were recently made to the building, the goal was to get this, to do what you're doing now with this approval, right?
Correct.
If for some reason you didn't get this approval, now you've made all the modifications to the building, what would you do with it?
Sleep aromatherapy place. I don't know. I really don't know. Because as we read through the township ordinances and the township things online, we saw that it was a permitted use. Now, I didn't read far enough probably, and I didn't understand it quite the way. So we went ahead, we did, and the modifications we made, and we ran into some problems with the building department, I'll be 100% honest, but everything we did was approved back in 2014. It's just they never completed them. So we went through and we completed them.
Okay, so you had a site plan from 14,
Yes.
and then you finally completed that from 14.
Site plan for
Well,
the
something-
exterior, the
for-
interior had drawings that had been approved back in 2014, and we updated.
But it wasn't
everything.
you in 2014.
It was
a
not
different
us in
owner.
2014.
It was not him as the
Right,
owner.
right.
I didn't pursue this. A friend of mine owned it. He foreclosed on the person. He asked me if I'd take it over. This wasn't something I went looking for, so. Little background.
So your goal is to keep it configured the way it is and to have guests in kind of a common area and have separate rooms that don't have bathrooms in each room. Kind of, you're talking about you could have,
There's 2 units.
so you're trying to rent each unit as opposed to renting out more individual units.
There's a lower and an upper,
Right.
each with separate entrances. There's 2 full baths on the lower and 2.5 baths on the upper unit. There's 4 bedrooms on the upper unit. There's 2 very large bedrooms on the lower unit.
So you're just trying to keep it as a 2-unit.
Yes,
Are the units connected in?
they are. There is a fire door that you could open up if somebody wanted to rent the whole building.
But it is completely separated between?
Yes,
Based on floors?
and 2 separate entrances, correct.
Okay, so it's basically a 2-family,
Yeah,
or depending on your terminology, but it's a,
and we didn't really change that. That's how it was as we got in there. There's 2
so
furnaces,
it's
there's 2.
multifamily as opposed to an inn, it could be, your goal is not to, I think, from the inn, with the terminology and the requirements, it would be like you were gonna have, 20 different people, 20 different unrelated kind of thing, like rooms and things.
No, that's not our plan. That would
So
not
you're
be.
basically, you're looking at this as a 2-family, a multifamily with, as an Airbnb or a short-term vacation rental.
Yeah,
as a 2-family.
I've learned the Airbnb word
Well, that's
causes
a
problems,
wrong,
and
you're
I
right.
don't, I want
So
to avoid that.
a
but
short-term vacation.
Short-term rental,
Vacation
vacation.
rental
Yeah.
with, as a 2-family.
Yes,
Nothing more than two units. And sometimes it would just be a 1 unit.
yes, it could be, yes. And it's
That's a little
probably
different.
kind of like the Swan Inn, down on the dike.
Yep. Mhm.
It's very similar to what they're doing down there.
So would you need, I don't know, it's probably a question for Steve, would you need to be called an inn, or could it just be a multifamily?
I don't know if I can answer that.
Because it's only going to be a 2-unit.
What? Inn is residential,
I know, but is it?
and it's not allowed in that district. That's why we're getting real careful to classify this as. a
That's why you went
lodging
around that.
Yeah, I think they're asking us, for a public lodging facility
facility. That's allowed in-
determination.
We had a very
It's
long,
semantics, but we
So we need to stick with
Because the
that.
public
yes.
lodging, if you go off what the site plan requirements are, there's,
Do we
there
determine?
has to be 25 feet of, the lot has to be landscaped, can't be any parking, the first 25 feet all has to be landscaped and not paved except for the drive, if I read the ordinance correctly. And you have some other items, it doesn't seem like, it's because you're only going to be having two groups in. But site plan would probably require, under the ordinance, would require modification because it's paved and parked up in that first 25 feet.
They're not asking for site plan approval. They're asking to use an existing building as a public lodging facility.
Right.
So you wouldn't have, even though you wouldn't have to modify the site plan because of,
You could request that, but that's not what they're asking for right now. They're just asking you to make a determination that a public lodging facility is similar to a motel,
Right.
a hotel or inn that's allowed in that district.
that's something the building department would have to take up, and that would be out, so it would not be in our lane. That would be your call, not this board's call, I would think.
actually, Gary was
that'd be
present at
us.
that meeting also, weren't you, Gary? Yes, so there was Gary, Steve, the Matskos, I,
Township Attorney.
Township attorney.
And Shannon.
And Shannon.
Yeah, Hobart.
So it was an hour-long meeting of trying to look at our ordinances and
Come to
how this
Jesus
request
meeting.
fits.
It worked. We got it done.
Any other questions, comments?
Looks pretty simple that, is it compatible with what's going on in that district?
One other
And I
quick
think that's
question.
what we're,
I'm sorry. One of the MLS descriptions said it was subject to breaking off the back part of the property. Is that something that you're still?
No, and that, we put that up for sale.
Right.
God, I don't even know, probably 8 months ago when all this started to come to a head. Like I said, I took it over for somebody as a favor. So, well, if I can sell it, I'll sell it. But no, that's not even
That's not
part
in
of
the
it right
works
now.
to split
No.
that property off.
We may have additional plans for back there, which we, again, would have to come before the board and make sure, and with the building department and everything, and make sure everything was kosher, what we might do, but we would anticipate maybe doing something else. I don't know. There's a lot of property there.
There's a lot of property.
First, we're fighting eagle, though, so. Good luck.
Gary, do you have any comments in regards to this particular project?
Well, right now, I mean, it's a office building. So that's what they're here to you, and even though they've made some changes and modifications, in my eyes, it's still just an office building. So at such time that you decide to allow for it to be an inn or short term or whatever it is, then I will be working
Subject to
with them,
those.
to make sure that codes are met for it to be occupied as such.
So the quote term in Steve's review is, quote, public lodging facility.
correct.
And that's what the request is. Am I clear at this point?
It is.
Steve?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
So the motion would be something like, the planning commission determines that this public lodging facility is compatible with similar uses allowed in the district, and that would be
That's
it.
absolutely right. Spot on.
I'll second that.
You making a motion on that?
Yeah,
or
that's a
you want-
motion.
He already made the
You make a
motion.
motion to approve?
No.
No, a determination. It's a determination that this public lodging facility
Okay, I got
is
you.
compatible.
I got you.
And that's
Correct,
it.
Steve?
That's correct.
So-
Support.
Well, would it be this one or a public lodging facility
Well, I'm just talking about this one.
compatible to an inn?
How about-
Making the determination that the public lodging facility as proposed by the applicant is compatible with similar uses in the district.
May I request we include, or you would include the address of this particular
Yeah, that's why I
location?
said this.
So I can give you the address if you'd like it. It's 5350 Point Trumbull.
One second here. So I'm going to say, okay, the planning commission has determined that, go ahead with the address.
5350 Point
5350
Trumbull.
Point Trumbull,
Clay Township.
Clay Township, Michigan,
Is, quote,
is, quote, "a public lodging facility and is compatible with similar uses allowed in the district."
that sound pretty clear, Steve?
Yes.
Cover our bases. So we're just talking about this particular site.
No, it's just, no, you make that determination, it'll go to the building department.
Correct.
They can begin the process of working.
Yes.
Okay, Sue has a question.
Madam Chair, just wanted to clarify, it's compatible not with this district, but the C3 district.
With this C3?
You can add that, sure.
Yeah. Want to add that too?
I have to.
Sure. We're going to make it really clear.
Is compatible within the C3 zoning district.
Okay. So we have a motion. Anybody
And
want to?
I will support that determination.
We did have Chris at the other end, so.
Yeah.
All right, I support.
Who's the second?
It was originally Chris down here. You still want to support that one?
Yeah, I'll support it.
Chris is, okay, so we have Tom, we have Chris Hiltonen as a support. Sue, would you mind reading back the motion so we make sure we're clear on this?
The planning commission determines that the 5350 Point Trumbull in Clay Township, Michigan is a public lodging facility. That
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Everybody understand the motion? Roll call, please.
Deborah Addy's absent. Mark Bouchard.
Yes.
Christopher Daggy.
Yes.
Chris Hiltunen.
Yes.
Christine Holcomb is absent. Tom Kozel.
Yes.
Robert Muesling, yes. Wayne Torno.
Yes.
And Kathy Schweikart.
Yes. Good luck with your
Thank you.
project.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. We're going to move on to new business, which would be 6B, 2024 Planning Commission meeting dates. You got those ready? Steve, do I need to read these into the record? Is it necessary to read these dates into the record for tonight? For our dates for this year?
I'm sorry, I still don't understand the question.
I think we do.
I think you do.
The Planning Commission meeting dates. I'm just going to read them into the record.
No, you can just say yes.
As proposed.
Or you can do what you
Yeah, as
want.
published.
Okay, how about, it's the Clay Township Planning Commission on Wednesday, January 24th, 2024, approved the following schedule of dates for the Planning Commission meetings during the year of 2024.
I second it.
There you go.
No, you can't make a motion, so
Somebody else can.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 meeting dates as presented to the planning commission.
I'll second it.
He's still going to say it.
Just thinking about it.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Deborah Addy's absent. Mark Bouchard.
Yes.
Christopher Daggy.
Yes.
Chris Hiltunen.
Yes.
Christine Holcomb is absent. Tom Kozel.
Yes.
Robert Muesling, yes. Wayne Torno.
Yes.
And Kathy Schweikart.
Yes, thank you, Robert. Okay, item number 6C is election of officers for chair, vice chair, and secretary. How about we start with secretary? Open nominations.
Anybody want to take over my job?
No.
No. I would elect Robert. He does such a wonderful job. He's doing.
I second it. He's doing
Second,
great.
third, fourth.
Any other nominations? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I guess you're it, Robert.
Okay.
Vice chair. Nominations.
Nominate Christine Holcomb.
I second. Anybody else wanna? I don't see anything. All right, all in favor of Christine Holcomb as vice chair, even though she's not here at the moment?
Aye.
All right. All in disagreement? All done. Opening for chair.
I'll nominate Kathy Schweikart.
I'll second that.
Any other suggestions? How about, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? All right, congratulations, everybody. You better work faster there.
I hear you. I'm glad I had these.
Number 7, unfinished business. We don't appear to have any unfinished business unless you think we do. Steve saying no. Number 8 is planning consultant report.
The only thing that we may have on the agenda for next month, nothing has come in other than now we may have Gabriel Marine, but there's nothing pending for next month yet.
Okay, thank you. Item number 9, ZBA representative report, which is Chris.
Well, it's been a while. What are the cobwebs here? It was from November 15th of 23, 6384 Green. They were looking for a variance on second floor of a garage and overall height. And after discussion with the applicant, they decided to amend their drawings just to be in compliance with the ordinance, and that was it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Item number 10 is board representatives report, which would be Mark.
Okay. Really have nothing to report, but it was a good meeting today, and I appreciate everybody's support.
What about the zoning on M29?
I can help you with that one, Mark, if you want.
Please.
Okay, that would have been, I'm going to finally call it the Dollar General rezoning.
Yep.
We made a recommendation to approve it just for that 2-point-something acres. It went up to Metropolitan Planning, which I have the information here, that they also recommended approval of that particular one that we did, got sent back to, which it always does, to the Board of Trustees, which was this past Monday, I believe. And the Board of Trustees denied it, so they did not get their rezoning. So that's where we're at. Okay? So,
Has there been any feedback whether the applicant's going to challenge that in court?
I have not heard anything unless somebody else has.
We're not looking for it either, Chris.
No, I'm just curious. No, I'm just asking. I'm not saying that's, they should or shouldn't.
How about to be determined? So, but yeah, I was trying to follow up because, Chris, you had mentioned, we do this and then we never really necessarily hear that final outcome. So I decided just to do some little research, and actually they have a nice, form that they fill out from Metropolitan Planning Commission with information and the reasons why, if anybody's interested, why they also thought it should be approved. But they have detailed comments regarding it, so. So that's where it ended up. At the Board of Trustees meeting, it was denied. So, any other Board of Representatives report? No? Okay. That was what I was going to do for Chairperson's report, other than to say thank you, everybody, and welcome back to the new year, and maybe I won't be so rusty at the next meeting, because this one was a little struggle.
Did we get a pay raise this year?
Mark?
A pay raise
Get $2 or something?
Don't hold your breath.
I'm going to take that as a negative across the whole board.
I'm asking all the wrong questions.
You are, well, no, you're not, there's no wrong questions. Planning Commission members, number 12. Any Planning Commission member comments? No. I would also add does everybody else get the planning and zoning little
I signed up
pamphlets?
for 'em, yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Township will usually pay, just usually go to Cindy and let her know that. Maybe Amber at this point.
I was directed to send it to Cindy Valentine
Okay, there you
to
go.
fill out what classes, and then she would pay for it directly through the township.
Oh, not her own pocketbook?
Well, no, maybe, I don't know. She would pay it.
She would take care of it, okay, perfect. So that's number 12, Planning Commission member comments, any? No? Number 13, public comments. Anybody in the public like to make a comment? Ooh, Lance is back.
I would
Please
just
state your
like-
name.
Lance Surdy, 71069 Angling. I would just like to thank you to the Planning Commission for the consideration on the cell tower. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to also thank Gary for being here and helping us out when we have questions. I really do appreciate it. And our two planners, very, very grateful that you are here to help us through these different items that come before us, especially when we forget it's a recommendation versus it's just us. So, thank you. Item number 14 would be adjournment.
Motion.
We got a motion.
Aye.
You second it.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending.